Good morning. It's a beautiful day and it's very exciting to be a part of this great conversation, the National Education Dialogue, as we're looking at the bigger pictures that we're shedding for the country. I'm Andrew Chamagero, and today we are on day 3 of this great conversation. Maybe just to give you a recap, on day 1, that was on Tuesday, we're looking at the status of the education in our country. Different stakeholders gave us the statistics, they gave us the strategies at hand, the mechanism we can deal with to make sure that this changes. Day 2, that was yesterday. It was about education planning and financing, and indeed we saw a couple of interministerial sector people discussing these, the MPs who actually make the laws and that affect the education sector. And now today we are sharing the best experiences and the best practices and action plans for the education in our country. You can be a part of this conversation. The hashtag is education continuity. And remember that this program is brought to you by World Vision Uganda. We have Save the Children, we have UNICEF, we have Oxfam International Aid Services. It Takes a World. We have a partnership for community transformation, that is a pact. And of course, education advocacy with a difference at the organizers. We're going to have a very great conversation. With me here today, I'm still with Mr. Henry Semakula from the Ministry of Education and Sports. Good morning, Henry.
Good morning, Andrew.
Day 3. Here we are.
Yeah, it's not a simple journey, but we are moving. And I'm glad that over the last 2 days, we've been receiving lots of very good ideas.
Oh, yes.
We hope every stakeholder out there who is really keen about continuity of education is really following and picking where to start from.
Did you get something in particular that took your attention?
Oh, yeah, quite a number of them. But of course, in the interest of time, through the discussion, it was identified that learners with special needs have even suffered more. Because even as we talk of the online platforms, for them they can't access. We still looked at the children in refugee camps having issues. They also have challenges with the gadgets and all that, and then access issues. But there was hope from the partners since the other day that much as the situation is bad, they are committed to supporting government, and that they'll provide whatever they can. And I remember the person who spoke on behalf of the partners actually indicated that it should be a situation of optimism, not simply fearing the situation. And personally, the way I see things, there have been some good lessons from the lockdown as well. We shouldn't take everything negative. We parents who are never home have at least gotten some time to understand our children, to even understand our neighbors, to try to become teachers, to instill the other values of discipline and so on. So I really see that we are benefiting from this dialogue.
Well, it's a conversation that we're going to have from now up to 11 a.m. this early morning. And just to have this conversation start, allow me to welcome Mr. Edson Insuga, who happens to be a senior education, facilitator from Save the Children, who is our key partner in this to make sure that this conversation reaches far and wide. Those on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, the hashtag is education continuity. Mr. Nsuga, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
It's very exciting to see you here today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be part of this dialogue as we deliberate on the future of Ugandan children. And I'm excited to be part of this.
Okay, you can give us the opening remarks, that is with regards to Save the Children perspective.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and greetings to all those who are tuned in wherever you are based. And we hope this day is going to be really exciting, given that it is the last day of the 3 days dialogue. So in the last 2 days, there has been a lot of discussions, as Semakula has alluded, pointing to the challenges, but also the opportunities available for the continuity of education in Uganda. But as you are all aware, COVID-19 pandemic and its mitigation measures, including school closures, has had very serious repercussions on the children of Uganda, actually worsening the challenges of education which existed even pre-COVID, and even creating new challenges around child protection and the education of children. So the school closures have greatly worsened the inequalities the challenges, the gaps which existed in the system before COVID, and has even created new ones, which include a number of children have grown. Mm-hmm. Imagine a child who was 17 years in sitting senior 4 in 2019, and he only went to class for 3 weeks, and so this child is now an adult, 19 years. Another child who started P1 is now still in the P1, but there are also other cohorts who are already 6 years. So this creates a challenge in terms of children outgrowing their classes, and it is pointing us to a direction that we need to rethink how to accelerate children's learning for continuity. Secondly, there is a huge challenge coming in terms of clogging the education system. You realize that we are faced with the possibility of double cohorts. Children who are in P1 are still in P1. Others have already made 6 years, meaning that we might have 2 cohorts of P1, and so are other classes. So all these are new challenges coming in with education. And just to summarize, the last one could be around the school readiness. The school readiness program is very, very critical under early childhood care and development. But under this pandemic, we have realized that early learning has really been put on its knees, and therefore school readiness, which is very critical for learning success, has been undermined. So all these are challenges, but of course they present bigger problems to the Ministry of Education, to the government, and all the education stakeholders. There are problems which we have identified in the field, such as learning decay. A number of children had learned something, but over the years, even what they learned has been forgotten. So that learning decay is a big challenge, coupled with the loss of learning time.
Oh yeah.
A number of children have been out of school for nearly 2 years, and that is really massive. So all these put together compound the challenges the education sector was facing even before COVID. And if you put them together, it paints a picture as if the future of education is really bleak.
Oh, yeah.
But all is not lost, as all stakeholders have been saying. There are solutions. And in today's discussion, we shall be hearing about best practices, which of course need to be cascaded, which need to be scaled up in order to ensure that we resurrect the education sector and we ensure a brighter future for Ugandan children.
Wow.
And with that, I would like to congratulate you for the last 2 days.
Oh, yes.
And to wish all the panelists who are going to share opinions today fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That is Mr. Nsubuga Edson, Senior Educationist from Save the Children. It's a conversation, and I see a couple of you. You're already on Twitter. Let me see a couple of you. I see on Twitter already. Let me just sample a couple of you I see here. I see Joan Kemi, you're already tweeting. Namakura Mai, you're already tweeting. Missy I see you. I see Kansime Onesimus. That is the conversation on Twitter. It's already up and running. Brighton Abahu, I see you. Let's keep this conversation going, because today we're finding our very own solutions. Shortly after the COVID-19 lockdown, how are we engaging education at all levels? Just to make sure that I have Mr. John Tereraho. Are you online with us? Mr. John Tereraho?
Yes, good morning, Andrew.
Okay. A very good morning and good to have you. Yesterday we had you for just a few minutes, but now that we have you today, Mr. John Tereraho is an education technical lead at the World Vision Uganda. Now, Mr. Tereraho, what enablers can facilitate effective teaching and learning processes in Uganda amidst the COVID-19 from your perspective?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, my colleagues, the other panelists, and thank you everyone on this call and the viewers. Truly, we, as a world, we are dealing with an unprecedented situation. a situation that we have not dealt with before.
Mm-hmm.
But this has also brought a lot of hard work, a lot of innovation, a lot of thinking, and right now there is so much that we can actually we can learn from, we can use, we can build on, so that we support the children continue learning. So the bottom line is that we cannot sit and watch a whole generation of children lose out on education. And so we have got to look at those things. They could be small things, but they seem to be working. Now, as a country, I think we have so many enablers. We have a Ministry of Education with a budget which was appropriated by Parliament. On Monday, our colleague, the Chief of Education for UNICEF, gave us an interesting figure about this, the budget, the money that was spent by the Ministry of Education last year. So we have money appropriated for the Ministry of Education. We have staffing of the Ministry of Education, and we have teachers. Our teachers are there, they are available, and they are in the communities. They are not at school. When schools were closed, teachers did not remain at school. They went to communities, and children are in communities. These teachers smile to the bank every month, even when we are in the lockdown, and they get a salary. I just think that we have an opportunity in mapping out teachers in our communities and trying to work with them to support the children learn. So the Ministry of Education has a budget, and we have an opportunity in allocating a great part of this budget to respond to the needs of the children as they learn from home. We also have an opportunity in the materials that were developed by the National Curriculum Development Center. The materials are already available. They are very good. They are quite useful, and they will be very helpful if these materials, if children access these materials. So we have an enabler in the fact that we are not going to start. We have the materials already. So we just need resources to print these materials and to organize to deliver these materials to the children. We have, we have that as very important, because enabling a child to have a book at home, I mean, they will have an opportunity to look at that book if they have a slight support of their peer or even of their parent. Friends, when you look at the recent past, we have a very big opportunity in the materials that exist in our primary schools. The government of the Republic of Uganda, through the Ministry of Education, has every year been procuring materials, and these materials are actually in schools. Schools have been closed, the libraries are not functional right now, the bookstores are under lock and key. I just look at this one as an enabler. Is it possible for us to work with district, local governments, and encourage head teachers to open those stores, those bookstores, those cupboards, and those libraries, and allow these children to borrow these books so that they can have these materials? The Ministry of Education has also come up with a parents' boost. We should be really focusing so much on what is happening at home. With the closure of schools and with all children now spending most of the time at home, we need to help parents appreciate that they have got a role they can play in helping children to learn. I would like to appeal to the Minister of Education to quicken the process of completing this parents' boost, have it available and actually produced. we need to move a little fast and engage everybody that is that cares to increase the awareness for home learning and build the capacity of our parents to support children to learn. Friends, when you look at the operating landscape, we have a lot of willingness from the CSOs, from the education development partners, and these CSOs, the education development partners, and everyone have got resources in terms of funds. They have human capital, they have the capacity, and they have a lot of community presence. We just need to be mobilized. I mean, the CEOs, the partners, and
recording stopped.
All the players in the education sector need to
recording
come on
in
board,
progress.
need to be coordinated so that we know who is doing what, where, and how. There are so many models out there that the different players are actually employing. We have a lot of support in terms of finances. Nobody is seated, everybody is working. And we have a lot of players in the education sector who need to be coordinated. I just want to appeal to the Ministry of Education, the district education departments, and the COVID response teams to make use of the willingness of all these partners to support. I know, of course, we have been awakened to the fact now, that digital or ICT for education is an indispensable aspect of our learning. We have been awakened to the fact that schools can close and to be important for children to be at home. And we have an improved coverage of TVs. We have an improved coverage of radios. We have a reasonable high phone ownership that can be used. We have a considerable internet coverage in this country. What we actually need right now is to ensure that the internet is affordable so that children can study. Colleagues, you and me and a few others have the opportunity of supporting their children back home with a material. With the material, the children can access a phone, they have a computer. Those who are lucky, they have a computer, they have a phone, but it actually costs a lot of money to pay for internet. So the opportunity really lies in the fact that there's internet, there's a high phone coverage, and children and parents can access information. We have a number of platforms. You have WhatsApp, you have you have WhatsApp, you have short messages, SMS. You have many ways of interaction that we can actually utilize to improve teaching and learning. Our teachers in the community have the capacity, they are very well trained, and we also have other community members we have other members in the community who can actually support as literacy volunteers. I want to say, friends, that however much we focus so much on digital education, however much we think that we can have, we can use our radio, we can use the television to support children to learn, we must be aware that the teacher is always very necessary. I mean, the television is not going to replace a teacher. The phone will not replace a teacher. Digital, we still have a very, very high digital divide. So I would like to appeal to whoever is concerned that whatever we do, whatever intervention we make, whatever intervention we propose, we should think about engaging teachers. We should find a way of mobilizing our teachers, of engaging them, of working with them, because I also know that a good number of them are not really very comfortable, that they are earning without doing some work. Some of them are also parents and their children are affected. So we need to start challenging each other to find a way of supporting these teachers to help us.
John, if you can hear me, earlier on you alluded that there are quite very many models we can use with regards to education service delivery that can improve the education in our country. Could you at least give me like two in a space of like 2 minutes?
Well, thank you very much. We have, as I said, we have willingness of partners, and we have so many partners involved in education, right now. Most of us, of course, have been implementing in schools, but all models that have been implemented in schools have also had a community component. I want to refer to the unlock literacy model implemented by World Vision to promote early grade reading for P1, P2, and P3. This is very, very, in a very many ways, similar to the literacy boost of Save the Children. Both models have a very strong component of engaging parents. They have very strong community action components. They have very strong components of engaging teachers, and they have very strong components of working with children. Now, friends, what we need now is to ensure that in the communities need, that community awareness raising has to increase. And parents need to realize that if they don't manage the children, they will lose them. If they don't support the children to learn during this time, then the children will lose out. Because as my brother from Save the Children said during the opening, there is so much children have lost, children have grown fast, and there's a lot we need to do. So we need to engage parents. So model, whatever model we actually use, whatever model that is being implemented anywhere by anyone, must take into account parents' awareness raising. It must take into account psychosocial support to the children and the parents. It must take into account supporting children to read with one another, for one another. It must take into account providing an opportunity for children to access materials. It must take into account mobilizing some literacy volunteers, some community literacy volunteers to support these children.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Tederaho, the education lead at the World Vision Uganda. That is very, very interesting. I hear the strategies he's had at all levels are very cardinal, and he summarizes them that everyone has a role to play. Sure. Semakula, take up the next panelist.
That students have lost a lot of time.
Oh yes,
and that they are also going beyond the normal age for normal classes.
That's the thing. Normal age for normal classes.
Since we are in an abnormal situation, I think we shall have to think and
adjust.
Some of us have gone back to study as adults, and we have completed courses.
Of course, the
so
100% teachers' waves.
1-2 years, I think that is not so bad. But I think he introduces us so well to yet another great presentation.
Oh yes.
This time coming from Vastina Bayendera, DEO Ruchiga. Mr. Vastina?
Miss.
Oh, Miss Vastina, DEO Ruchiga, are you there? Yes, as Miss Vastina gets set, I think the challenges of psychosocial support, the challenge of psychosocial support is really important. Like people have mentioned, children have grown, children feel empty, they are very anxious.
The emptiness.
They don't know whether they'll even get to the next class. Those who are adult a bit are even wondering about their future course, future career. So all those worries will be placed onto the teacher.
Oh yeah.
Which teacher is also worried already.
Psychological and mentally.
Doing odd jobs and so on and so forth. So I think as we move on, we shall also need to retool and provide a lot of psychosocial support to the teachers.
To the teachers.
Yes. Miss Bayendera, DEO Ruchiga. Andrew, could it be that we can do a quick substitute?
Bayendera doesn't seem to be with us for now.
So we could possibly move right up to...
Okay, Susan Opoka Tumsime is on. Okay. We could possibly talk to Susan.
Okay, and for Susan, this is the Executive Director, FAWE Uganda. Susan, are you there? And I know that Susan must be there because she has been so interested in,
Very
the,
much so.
in the plight of
From
the
day one.
adolescent girl since this lockdown thing started. So Susan, you are welcome. You'll have about 8 minutes. May I see you, Susan? May we see you? May the nation see you? We need that video on.
Can we have Susan on air? Okay, here she comes.
Okay. So Susan, you are welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, and you're welcome. I was
Thank you. Good
indicating
morning.
that you'll have about 8 minutes to deliver whatever you have for us. You can tell us a little more about yourself in the first minute, and then give us those other highlights in the subsequent minutes. Of interest, I have 2 big questions for you, but the first one will be your views, because you've provided evidence. You did a survey recently about what is happening to the adolescent girl and young woman since COVID and the lockdown. And you've actually disseminated this study. But we want to know what lessons we have as a country from the report that you delivered from that study. So proceed, Madam Susan.
Thank you very much, Henry. My name is Susan Opok Tumusime, and I'm the Executive Director of FAWE Uganda. FAWE is a Pan-African organization that champions girls' education through various aspects, bursaries, advocacy, change in norms, practices, and so on. We recently undertook a study following the outbreak of the COVID pandemic to try and estimate prevalence of early marriages amongst adolescent girls, young women, to investigate the drivers of engagement in sexual activity, assess participation of girls in learning opportunities, and assess interest in continued learning, as well as examine the involvement of girls in economic activities. Now, over the last 2 days, many of the aspects that came through the report were actually confirmed by the various technical people. One is increase in sexual activity by young people, as well increase in pregnancies. Actually, the report indicated that there was overall a 22.5 increase in pregnancy among 10 to 24-year-old, 366.5% increase in pregnancy rates of the 10 to 14-year-olds. So that definitely tells us a story. Also noteworthy is that 3 in 10 girls are aware of fear of being pregnant during the COVID time, as well as 30.3% reported having multiple, sexual engagements. So that is a challenge for us. Notably also is about that 2.4% of the learners do not hope to continue attending schools or to resume schools. And out of this, 26.8 girls said they have actually lost interest in education. And this really reaffirms a study that was earlier done by the Ministry of Education together with school dropouts. We also noted that during COVID time, more than 51% of the learners have any access to learning opportunities. The various platforms that are in existence available, and this is mainly affected those in the rural areas, where you find that about 50.2% of them did not have access and the various aspects. The report also noted child labor were hard to them.
Susan? Oh, we seem to have a challenge with Susan's network, but we can hear her loud and clear, sharing with us the results of the study on adolescent girls and young women since the lockdown started.
Recording stopped.
And she seems to be really presenting very worrying figures.
Oh yes, I was worried that you just not wait to hear and engage from our perspective, the ones who are receiving on this side. Susan, if you can have her back. Ah, she's not here yet. She's not here yet. She's not here yet. Okay. But these figures are very worrying. Coming to you, Edson, from Save the Children, what do some of these figures reflect on your perspective?
Well, I think the figures being highlighted by Susan actually points out the true picture of what is happening in communities in terms of how children are differently engaged in very illicit activities, including sexual activities, many engaged in labor, and of course it is no surprise that a number of them had opinion that they may not even return back to school. So all these pointers towards the situation we are faced with, and like the saying goes, problem identified is a problem halfway solved. So it gives us the opportunity now to think strategically how to address these concerns. But indeed, the figures are worrisome.
Okay. Do we have Susan back to talk to us? Thank you so much, Mr. Nsubuga. Do we have Susan back on air?
She seems to be.
Okay, Susan is back. Thank God.
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Proceed.
So I was saying that a lot of work, a lot of gains that had been, got in terms of support to girl child education is being lost as a result of the pandemic. As we see, a lot of girls are pregnant. If we are talking about 366.5 10 to 14-year-olds being pregnant, and
oh God,
is something wrong somewhere, because this is evidence.
Carry on, Susan. The issue of ICT, Semakula, comes back at play here.
Sure. And this is the advocacy that is going on now.
Oh, yes.
We should go ICT. We should adjust to the new norm. Yes, it's a new norm, but we really need a lot of preparation. Because then, Susan, I know, is well placed to even have a good gadget and have good network.
Yes.
But you could also think of places like far away in Bundibujo, down in Toroko and all that. As you think of the urban child who can have good access and even a gadget like a phone or an iPad, think about that other girl down in Kamori who may not really. So we still have a challenge, but we know that Susan was really giving us very good highlights. I think she's getting back. She's back.
Yeah.
Susan, could we still find a way of winding up when we have good network in the next 4 minutes?
Please go ahead. I can hear you.
Yes, and we are also requesting that you proceed with your submission. Susan?
The challenge is with the internet. Okay, let's do this. Susan, you can take off your video and we can carry the audio. At least we don't miss both. We can't miss the data and we miss you as well. You can just take off your video and we just have your voice. Susan, does that work better for you?
Okay, but I'm also thinking that as Susan works her way back, the kind of survey she's reporting to us about has already been, they're in the process. FAO is in a very serious process of disseminating it.
Okay.
They had a national dissemination moment, I remember, at Imperial Real, and quite a number of players came. We shall only pray that that FAO and many other stakeholders actually take up that study and really get the findings in there. It is very worrying to hear babies are getting babies.
I know.
And you know, issues about reproductive health demand that the mother must be grown up enough to look after her baby. But if it is a baby looking after a baby,
it becomes very challenging.
And if a baby gets a baby now, when she even still has hopes of getting back to school, I think this is really challenging. So Susan is right. The gains we seem to have gotten before the lockdown seem to be getting into trouble. And those of us listening in really need to make numbers and lots of adjustments to ensure that we help these girls. Getting pregnant today does not necessarily mean that the girl is wasted.
No. Still a conversation about the National Dialogue on Education and Children shortly after the COVID-19 lockdown and how we're going to sail as a country. Now, joining us this hour morning, we're having Miss Joan Ajar, who happens to be a gender focal officer, Ugandan National Teachers Union. A very good morning, Joan.
Good morning.
I have you loud and clear. Now, COVID-19 has posed numerous challenges to the teachers. To be exact, the teachers have been pushed to the wall. I want to understand, in the country at large, how has the Ugandan National Teachers Union responded to the teachers' plights amidst the pandemic?
Thank you so much, Henry. Ugandan National Teachers Union has been supporting teachers in many ways, and we have built their capacities in many ways, and we think that not all is lost for the teachers and even for the children, but we know that there are quite a number of challenges. The teachers' capacities in Uganda cannot be questioned, because when children were fully attending school, we saw that a lot of cases were not registered. But when children went back home, we saw them exposed to a lot of challenges. Education sector is not affected only by this COVID-19 pandemic, but it has been at a challenge, but teachers has put control over this. Thank you.
Still in that very kind of conversation, John, before I let you go, what do you think government can do to manage better and ensure sustainable teaching and learning?
The sustainable teaching and learning process can only be improved. We have policies in place. We have teacher capacity building in place, but they're not adequate enough to provide the support that need us to move on. Like, for example, the need to provide the ICT capacity building for teachers. I think this is wanting in many areas, and teachers tried their best during the lockdown, the first one, that led to the reopening of schools, and we saw children going back to school. They managed to do their PLE, they managed to do their UCE, but with the support of teachers who were not even very ready to use the ICT. Some teachers stepped in a studio for radio presentation for the first time. But really, we thank the teachers for making that adjustment. That was very great. We think that if this capacity is built, then it's very important. Then parental involvement in education is very critical. Parents should get interested in what goes on in school and create a good working relationship with our teachers to ensure that teaching and learning process move on. And we need this with support from the community and the parents themselves. The stakeholders in education should support and fund education system through consultation with teachers. They should not just bring the activities that they think the school need, but they should involve teachers. I like it when a research was presented on the state of children during the lockdown, but I would like researchers or partners to look more into the input of teachers. What do teachers have to say? Because they're in the center of this learning, but they need a lot of support, and research involving them directly can really take us a long way. And I also call upon the stakeholders to collaborate and partner with us, the teachers, to address the future of our children. Teachers interface with these children on a daily basis. And that is why a lot of check was on the children's behaviors, on their protection, on their health. But now that they're at home, still, I go back to say that parental involvement is very, very critical in supporting the welfare of the children. I would also like to mention about the psychosocial support for teachers and the learners. When schools reopen, they have been they have been affected differently, but they need that support. And I'm sure that this can be done by the partners in education and even the Ministry of Education, which is already aware of this support. So this will really go a long way to improve the teaching and learning process when schools reopen. To me, I don't think all the hope is gone. We have not lost all this time that we cannot go back to school. Education can continue even where children are, but we are challenged by the systems, maybe the internet that some parents cannot afford, but still we can improve on these with collaboration and partnership with many stakeholders. I would like to talk about the teenage pregnancies,
in a minute.
Which is very, very common. And I think still, when school reopens, teachers still have a big capacity to manage this. And once the children are exposed to this kind of challenges, teachers' capacity also need to be stepped up to manage this category of children. We have a re-entry guideline in place by Ministry of Education, and we're very happy for that. This gives a second chance to a girl child to go back to school. And that guideline already came in force, and we have stories of children who have managed to sit their examinations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Joanna Jia, who happens to be a focal gender person from UNATU, Uganda National Teachers Union. Now, that was UNATU. Sure. Semakula, I'm sure you're impressed. I could see you smiling. I saw Ms. Tanswuga very excited about her submission.
UNATU is very close to the teachers.
Very much
them
so.
Day by day, they listen to their issues. I like all the proposals made by Madame Joan. The challenge of parental involvement, this idea of saying the children are for government, is really very sad. We are the ones who brought them in the world.
Very true.
The proposal of collaboration is very important, because this is a very huge cake. Nobody can manage it alone. So we need all partners from across the board. And she also reminds us of the need to give second chance to all the girls children, that especially the girls challenges, and just to emphasize that indeed the re-entry guidelines were passed. Maybe they have not been disseminated to the maximum, but they'll be coming on. Okay. So we now want to get to a teacher herself, because I know that Joan is a teacher, but from the administrative angle.
Yes. Strategic.
Now we need a teacher right from the classroom, and I want to invite Madame Rita Aine. Madame Rita Aine. Aine Rita, do I have you? I know I have you, but you are getting set. And this is a teacher from Gifted Hands Senior Secondary School, Wachiso. Anne, am I with you, Aine?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, and I will gladly be interested in seeing your picture, same as the public that is watching us. So, Madame Aine, we welcome you so much to this dialogue. We want to keenly listen into the perspectives coming from the real teachers on ground, and particularly teachers from private schools. We know that our teachers have been affected most, especially those who don't receive salary. So, Madame Aine. Madame Aine?
Yes.
Oh, I'll give you a good 8 minutes. From the start, you can use the first minute to explain to us who you are and what you do, possibly what you teach. Then I have 2 big questions for you, which you'll answer in about 6 minutes. The first one being, how has the pandemic affected private school teachers? And then I'll indicate when to ask the second question. Can you proceed? Rita?
Okay.
May I see your video on?
Her network is bad, so she...
Okay.
We can have her audio.
Let's have your audio as we get to receive the video later.
Oh, yes. Rita, carry on.
Rita, carry on. Yes, I'm there.
Please carry on.
Please carry on. Good morning, viewers. My name is Ainemba Zorita, a Kiswahili teacher at Gifted Hands, Kawanda SS. The question posed me that pandemic affected teachers. Really, private school teachers have been affected by this pandemic a lot, and they have been affected in this way. One, many teachers have lost their jobs due to the fact that their employers are also seated at home, and they have little or nothing to offer to their teachers. Two, teachers have really lost hope in teaching. They really see no use why they should, in their profession, they have started hating their profession, and yet it's invested in a lot. Then prestige. By doing this social work, it has ended up losing social prestige.
Rita, I'm sure that technology is not doing us service enough. Maybe possibly you could restart your gadget and you tap the link again and you connect back with us, but the network is not good. And I'd love to tap into what she's saying. But one thing that I actually saw here is that some teachers have lost confidence in their job. Previously, they're proud of their jobs, they were confident about it, but now they don't feel it's, it's the only time where teachers are not essential.
No, teachers remain essential whether somebody declares or not.
Yes.
For them, they're essential. It's only unfortunate that this time when we are categorizing, those would be most essential.
Yes.
Possibly they're not put. Myself, I'm a counselor.
Yes.
And there's another category of people who are not really put under the essential
Under the
bracket,
essentials.
which are the counselors. All the many challenges being mentioned require the attention of the counselor and the teacher where necessary. So, Madam Aine is bringing to the surface very important.
I think she's back. Aine, are you back? Aine, are you back? Rita, do we have you back? Rita?
Okay.
Okay, carry on. Now you're on air. Proceed.
Yes, I was still talking about salary reduction. Salary has been reduced between this, the first lockdown and the second lockdown, and this has affected teachers' financial status. Then a private school teacher really has not received her or her NSSF. There is that no NSSF retainment, and it has really affected us psychologically and financially. There is a lot of distress put on teachers because in private school, you have to work and get results in order to maintain, to keep your job. So teachers have been put on pressure to give work, to create work during lockdown, yet some are not given data, they don't have money, but they have to give results at the end of the day. And then teachers have lost interest in the profession themselves. Some have started looking for business. They have lost interest in the profession. Know what the future is going to bring, but really teachers have lost interest.
Yes, thank you very much, Rita. Rita, thank you very much for those highlights about the challenges our teachers are bringing forward. I like the fact that she's a Swahili teacher, and I can see that teachers teaching language are really in trouble, because if you are teaching a language, there's need for that continuous follow-up. Otherwise, this long break, I think they have to get back to zero. But Rita, I'm still with you, and we are winding up in the next 2 minutes. Rita, now that you propose big challenge, you indicate big challenges for our teachers, the jobs have been lost, the employers are also home, they are seated, teachers want to take another preference, they have not received salary. What can you propose to us what can you propose to government as some of the possible strategies that can bring the situation to normal?
Okay.
Some of the possible strategies that can bring the situation to normal.
Okay. My first proposal is genuinely, I would propose the government to fully reopen schools, because that's where we have been getting our income. So schools should really be opened or reopened. By looking at that strategies, how can schools be fully reopened? And I think that will help to solve the financial challenges. Okay. And then the government should look at a private teacher and give them rights that every private school teacher should get appointment letter from their employers. Oh, yeah. Some teachers have been laid down during this lockdown because they never had an appointment letter. And next, many things have been proposed by the previous panelists. It's just adding up or polishing what they have already said. And I would urge also to support education by doing homeschooling, by supporting homeschooling. Maybe they bring teachers from different ways, and they really train they educate their children from home. Then I call upon the government also to support private owners, like our schools. As I said, that our employers have not been able to pay us just because, not because they don't want, but they really have nothing. So government should come up and support private schools, because we get education from both government schools and private schools.
Thank you so much, Rita. Because of time, allow us that we have to let her go for now.
Sure, we have. And she brings forward very good proposals, and I know government is listening.
Yes. Just to join us now, we are having a student. This is Makison Longora. He's 13 years of age, and he goes to Loreketia Community School in Moroto District. Maxon, can you hear me? Maxon, can you hear me? Okay, now I can hear you, but open your video, Maxon. Maxon? It's a conversation where we need children to be a part of their conversation as well. And I just can't wait. Yesterday we had Tumusime Alice, and she gave us a very great poem. Today I want to talk to Maxon to give us, what is his opinion about the current education status? Maxon, can you hear me?
I'm very sure Maxon is hearing you.
Maxon, can you hear me? I don't see Maxon here. Okay. I think I'll get Maxon a little later, because he doesn't seem to be with us now. Carry on.
So, but I think when Maxon comes, definitely she'll be picking up from the child of yesterday.
Oh, yes.
She told us they are anxious,
yes,
they're tired of home, they want school to reopen, but they also want to be safe. And so we really must continue listening to their voices.
They just could not wait.
Okay, when you made the last check, who was online, so that we engage?
Well, online I see a couple of people here already with us this early morning. I see Goretti Nakabugo, and that is the ED from Twaweza, who happens to be with us this early morning. And then Fred Mwesije and Julius Namukasa.
Okay.
These ones are already with us. Dan, if I could see my panelists here on the screen. Let me just see my panelists on the screen, and we see. Okay, Senjidwa is here. Okay, Rita Aina is still here with us. And Benedicto is here with us. Okay, Fred Mwesije is here with us. Let's go with Fred Mwesije. Director Feno. Fred, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
It's an honor to have you this early morning, and it's very exciting. Now, Fred, can I have a look at your video?
There you go.
Aha, perfect. Now, Fred, what best practices can be borrowed from the civil society actors, and what recommendations do you suggest on how best we can navigate through?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'm excited at being this webinar at such a very critical time in the history of our education in the country. And thank you very much, the moderator, for the question. The best practices from NGOs, first and foremost. I think these are many. Let me even say, not think, but it's on record.
Yeah.
Historically, first of all, NGOs have reached out to those that have been left out many of the years. These are marginalized groups. They can be marginalized economically. Some are marginalized
Mr. Mwesije.
socially. Others are marginalized.
Mr. Mwesije, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I have a request. Can you face where the light source is coming from? Because now the light is hitting you and I can't see you
at the
clearly.
back. All right. Let me try to do that. Let me change.
Okay, let me be
Recording
engaging.
stopped.
Let me be engaging the ones in studio as Fred is getting done there. In this other session, we are having Mr. Nsubuga to the core. Now, given that you deal with Save the Children, Mr. Nsubuga, how best can we sail through at the end of the day? Because we're trying to find solutions now.
Yeah, thank you very much. The starting point is to identify the challenges, and in the last 2 days, several of these challenges have been pointed out. And the recommendations we need to give really need to point to redressing some of those challenges. And the main advice we would give is that as a government, as a ministry, we need to take baby steps, addressing small things, but creating a very big impact. First and foremost, we have seen there is plight from all angles that schools should reopen.
Yep.
We have heard from the teachers, we have heard from the learners.
The parents themselves.
They want schools reopen. But at the same time, we're still facing the challenges of COVID-19. So this is where we have to come in with the strategies which can help. One of which, a number of the strategies are possible, the standard operating procedures, but there is one huge one for the Ministry of Education and the schools, and that is social distancing.
Okay.
So one of the strategies to address social distancing, and which has been effectively been used within the region, is adopting a double shift system, whereby instead of children waiting for 2 years to go back to school, they can go back in bits by bits. It could be per class or within a week. Some classes go to school and others go on the other term, such that in the meantime we try to address the issue of social distancing in the schools, because the reality is there is no enough resources to construct as many classrooms as
we
possible.
need, yes.
Secondly, we also need to relax a little bit in some of the standards. For instance, the construction standards would prescribe how a classroom should be. But in this context, if there is any space which can be used for learning purposes, I believe it should be embraced. It could be a temporary structure, which could, because it is coming in to solve this current challenge. It could be a tent, it could be a semi-permanent, and this is where we call upon authorities like in the refugee context, the Office of the Prime Minister, we call upon the UNHCR and others concerned to reconsider some of these standards as we try to sail out of the crisis, and when everything is settled, probably things can go back to the norm.
So the idea is we should not just shut down until when COVID is done.
Yeah, because we have no timetable when COVID will completely
That's the
be
truth.
eradicated. So we have to devise ways of continuing with life amidst COVID. Secondly, we need to look at, we have looked at the challenge of overgrown children. almost every child has overgrown their class, and it has psychological implications. So one of the strategy which we need to adopt is to see how can we accelerate learning. It is not a must that children must cover 100% of the content to move to the next level. So there is a way we can pick out what is most critical for children to continue learning. Ideally in lower classes, literacy and numeracy skills and other critical components of learning could be prioritized, and then we see how children can be helped. Take, for instance, girls who have given birth and boys who are married and others being drawn from work. Probably they may not fit in the formal arrangement unless if there is accelerating their learning. But also we need to vocationalize education and also instill a component of life skill. Because after COVID, formal education may not be that meaningful to some categories.
Absolutely. Freddie Wesley, I understand you're still with us and now you're far better. Can I have a look at you? Oh, perfect. This is good, Mr. Wesley. Welcome back.
Recording in progress.
Now, that is very better. So you're telling us about the best practices on how best we can borrow from the civil society actors to, sail through.
Yes, the best practices, as I was beginning to speak, I will start with inclusion, or reaching out to the marginalized groups of children who have been not able to access education. Over the years, it is not a new thing, it's an old thing. We all know that NGOs in this country have been able to reach out to those who have been marginalized either economically or due to economic reasons, or due to social economic reasons, or due to just physical reasons. I'll give an example of Karamoja. It has been marginalized for many, many, many years, and it is NGOs who reached out to those in Karamoja with non-formal education. And not only Karamoja, talk about Nakasongola, talk about places like Zimbabwe, talk about any corner of Uganda where education took decades before reaching. It was NGOs which ventured and opened up those spaces and opened up education to those communities. Similarly, children with learning special needs. Again, this has been an area championed and driven mainly by NGOs. It will take a long time if I go on to tease out small, sometimes big innovations, and even policy pushes. We have been talking about re-enrollment of girl children who get pregnant while at school. This has been a fight from the NGOs, and I'm very glad the government of Uganda did agree to this. But I'm not happy at the same time when I hear proposals of a mandatory maternal leave for the same children, being required to stay home for at least a year, even when some of those can be able to go back to school. And probably this is a time to call upon our government once again to open as many avenues of learning, to open as many avenues of accessing education to as many children as possible, if not all of them. And I want to follow up on this point by pointing out that COVID-19 has widened the gap between those who can access education and those who cannot access education, or those who are accessing education but with difficulties. Those children have fallen off and are continuing to fall off I also to take chance on this. When we're talking about innovations, we don't talk about reductions in any way, either in learning or access. And I have heard one of the participants on this forum saying that we do not have to cover the entire syllabus, 100%.
True.
I think this reduces on the learning and has a huge policy impact that is negative. If we do not aim to reach 100% or to cover 100% of our curriculum and syllabus, then what is the meaning of a curriculum?
Thank you so much, Mr. Fred Mwesige. Because of time, allow me just let you go for now, but thank you so much for this submission. Now, joining us is Maxon Longoro, a 13-year-old student of Lolektik Community School that is in Moroto. And this is one of the students who want to actually understand, get an opinion from a child who is directly affected. And this one is going to give us his opinion. Loket, can you hear me, Maxon?
Yes.
Maxon, what is your opinion about the current education and how you're holding up as children of the country?
My name is Longara Maxon, a child of Lolektik Community School. I am 13 years old. I feel bad because of the close of the schools. It has made me to miss my friends which had been playing with me at the school, which had been sharing things with me at the school. Even my teachers, it has made me to miss the one which is teaching us and counseling us at the school. It has made even many girls to get married. Even the boys are engaged in child labor, in cattle keeping, like going to the corral, looking for cows. When they see big snakes, that's dangerous. Even carrying heavy sacks, they are carrying. Now, I want the government to help us, to take us back to school. That we go to school, we do not get, even the girls, they will not get pregnant, then the boys will not suffer from child labor. When the lockdown is going on and off, the parents will say, because the lockdown is going on and off, why don't I take my child to a rich man? I get cows because the lockdown is going on and off. That's a waste of time. Now, I want the government to help us because we are still learning home learning, but sometimes home learning is in a poor learning. It needs a teacher to be guides because you know something, but you don't know something. I want the government, please take us back to school, that we be saved at school, that the girl will not be pregnant at school, that the boy will not engage from child labor. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That is so... Man, thank you so much, Longora. He's 13 years of age. He's in Moroto district. What do you make of that as a councillor? He kept on alluding to critical
given the
things.
kind of environment he studies from, I give him almost 120% for the communication skills.
Oh, yeah.
I've been to that side and I've seen children being very timid. So I want to thank Maxon so much. He comes up with very interesting ideas.
Yep.
He's reminding us at school we are safer
than home.
True. At home, some parents are planning to marry us off because they want to get money from us. So I really feel Maxon's appeal is very loud and clear also, and it is really high time we got into acting. But of course, we are aware that the pandemic is still on, and we are only hoping that Minister of Health guides us well. It seems that the general request by both parents and the children is that schools should start again. But also to remind our parents that they also have a parental responsibility.
True.
They shouldn't draw everything to the teacher thinking that where they cannot manage, it should actually be the teacher. And now we want to get more perspectives from World Vision Uganda. And this time we want to listen in to Irene Kagoya, the Associate Director, World Vision Uganda. Irene, do I have you online?
Yes, you
Oh,
do.
yes, I do. Yes, I do. Welcome, Irene. Just a little
Thank
more
you.
about yourself and in a minute, and then you get to my first question, where I know, and I'm very sure that World Vision has been implementing a campaign dubbed "It Takes a World to End Violence Against Children." And so you are taking lead in ensuring that our children are safe. So my first question to you will be, what intentions has World Vision, what interventions has World Vision put in place to deal with the rising cases of teenage pregnancies and other forms of violence? You've just heard from the child in Karamoja. So can we start from there?
Thank you so much, Henry, for that question. Just to briefly say something about myself, as mentioned, I'm the Associate Director Advocacy with World Vision. I'm also a human rights activist, and I'm very passionate about the rights of children. So the subject that we are discussing today is one that is really dear to my heart. The question you've just posed, I'll first make reference to the campaign. This campaign was launched in Uganda in 2017, and it seeks to end violence against children in schools, to end child sacrifice and child marriage. As we have seen from the 2 days conversation so far and today, violence against children is a real issue in this country. And when you talk about teenage pregnancies, I mean, the rates and the reports show that many girls are getting pregnant during this period. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Ministry of Health was reporting 25% of girls getting pregnant by the age of 19, with almost half of those being married before their 18th birthday. So the COVID-19 pandemic has just worsened this situation. I mean, yesterday, Honorable Ayume shared with us a story of a boda guy who has impregnated 13 girls in one district. You can imagine what that means for these girls. So what has World Vision done? We've undertaken a number of interventions. We've worked with community and cultural institutions and faith leaders to create awareness among children, parents, and caregivers about various forms of violence, where to seek help, and also find remedies. We have also collaborated to enforce laws and policies that promote children's rights. We are working with child protection structures at different levels, including the police, the LC system, to ensure that most vulnerable children are cared for in a safe community and family environment. We're looking at one of our models that we use, which is called Celebrating Families. We are strengthening the capacity of parents and caregivers and faith leaders to identify and address family issues, including harmful attitudes and practices towards child violence and neglect within the family. We have also another model. Actually, we have so many models, but this one, Channels of Hope model, is one that we are using to equip and empower churches and faith communities to take action to prevent, care, and advocate for child well-being. The other intervention that we are also taking, because we need to address the root causes of violence against children. Even when we are talking about teenage pregnancies, most of these girls find themselves cornered because of lack of essentials, because their families are struggling. So we've empowered households to improve their income through initiatives like Saving for Transformation, where we mobilize communities to form saving groups to increase their access to financial services. So these are some of the interventions that we are doing. But of course, there are a lot more, and as an institution, we really believe that we cannot achieve this on our own. So we very much rely on partnerships, because we believe together, and that is why we have this campaign, that it really takes a world to end violence against children.
Thank you very much, Irene. And you bring forward very interesting ideas. And thanks for the reminder about some of the scavengers out there, reference to Dr. Yume's case of one boda yesterday, who is in charge of impregnating 20 girls, over 13 girls. I think that is very unfortunate. And that is only one case that we have tried to establish. But there must be quite a number of them. And I really like it when you do a lot of partnership and collaboration with other partners to ensure that you put your programs better. But my last question for you, Irene, is that what lessons can government pick from your models to ensure that we continue to facilitate education and to ensure that learning continues?
Thank you so much, Henry. Indeed, learning has to continue, whether within this pandemic or without the pandemic. Learning is essential. And we have a number of models within our education program. I'll particularly highlight the model on ending violence against children in school, where we have a journeys approach, which is a threefold model or approach that seeks to really train teachers, children, and communities on journeys, where we used what we call the journeys handbooks. Here, teachers and children and communities are trained how to prevent and avert situations that would lead children to violence. And this model is very good in a way that it's really community-based, because the teacher is empowered, the child is empowered, the parent is empowered. For instance, parents can escort the child to school as a way of preventing violence against the children. Children can support each other and be each other's keepers to detect who is at risk and report, you know. So this model, government, one key lesson that government can learn from this model is to ensure that we empower the communities more and more. You know, there are a number of strategies that have been set out to empower communities through the Ministry of Gender, but the biggest challenge is dissemination of those policies and strategies. So for us, what would like government to do is to adopt this approach across all schools, because now we're implementing it in only the schools where we work. But if it can be scaled and can be adopted, it would really enable more schools use this approach to prevent violence against children.
Okay,
then
Irene,
we also, yes.
Do you hear me? Thank you very much,
yes,
and I can see you really have very many ideas as an organization that has been around this. It is only time that is not well on our side. We like the World Vision models, and I hear you loud when you say they should be pulled out to the entire country for all the schools. These journeys that you propose, I've personally interacted with the Journeys Handbook, and I know that it really has a lot of information about how children should be handled, how do they map dangerous areas, what should we do instead of punishing them using corporal punishments, what are the alternatives. All that is possible in the Journeys model, and I think that is a very welcome idea. So I want to get back to Andrew.
Well, the conversation is still ongoing. We still have a couple of panelists online, and time is not on our side. Those on Twitter actually following this conversation, I want to thank you. Let me tap into Mr. Benedict Lokiru. Benedict, are you there with us? Benedict? Okay, if Benedict is not ready, let me get Dr. Goretti Nakabugo, who happens to be the Executive Director of Uwezo, Uganda. Dr. Goretti, can you hear me? Dr. Goretti?
Lokiru had come actually. He was.
I'm ready.
He's
Dr.
ready.
Goretti?
Lokiru is ready.
Sir, Lokiru is ready.
Okay. Lokiru, now that you're ready and you can hear me, I want to know from your perspective as Bryce, or rather Oxfam Uganda, what practical interventions can government undertake to deliver now sustainable education where no learner is left behind?
Yeah, thank you very much. I first want to say I'm connecting from Karamoja.
Thank you.
Where I'm connecting from, the network's not very good.
Yeah.
And also my video. At one point, if I find it difficult, I will remove the video.
It's
just
okay.
to make you aware of.
But for now, let's have you.
Yeah, I'm Benedict Lokiru. I work with Oxfam Uganda as a consortium manager for our cross-border education project funded by EU. The project I'm managing is both in Uganda and South Sudan. So I'm happy to say that I've had experience of the effects of COVID for both Uganda and South Sudan. And of course, I may not have enough time to share all here. Yeah, as we said, yes, before I go into the real question, I would like to highlight that the COVID situation has disrupted over 600,000 learners in the refugee settlements in Uganda.
Wow.
This is a challenge for all of us. But I would like to say that the COVID situation actually is not a challenge. It should be an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity for us to realize what we thought and what we have been burying our heads under the sun. We are saying that, yes, COVID has increased inequality among learners. No, it's not the first time that we have learned that it has increased inequality. Inequality has been there. It's just COVID that has helped Ugandans to understand that there are other children that are suffering. There are other children that are standing under difficulties. In Karamoja, northern Uganda, and even within the urban areas. It is COVID that has made Ugandans understand that. To me, COVID is an opportunity. It has made us realize that our education system is not stable. We saw in Rwanda went into ICT. Kenya went to ICTs, distributed laptops, tablets for all children. But for us in Uganda, we sat back.
Mr. Lokero, I don't want us to go in what has failed. What do we need to do that no student is left behind?
Yeah, of course, I needed to give the background that before I give why we need to do.
Time
of course, what we need to do is to improve. One, we need to improve the ICT infrastructure in Uganda in totality. Somebody among us here said that we have internet everywhere in Uganda. You can now realize that we are suffering from this very forum, from internet. So some of the people connecting from Kasese failed to connect. Some people in Kampala failed to connect. I mean, in Karamoja having problems connecting. So ICT, if we want to improve education for the future, we need to improve the ICT. Make sure the internet connectivity is everywhere in a remote corner of Uganda. And then make sure that the data itself, if possible, Uganda should make sure that some companies specialize in providing data only and others do voice. So we need to do that in order for us to improve our e-learning. We're talking about e-learning. It can't happen in as long as the internet connectivity is a problem. If that is done, the ICT infrastructure is improved. That will help us. Two, for now, we need to leverage from the activities that we have done. For us as Oxfam, we are doing accelerated education. Somebody said that children do not need to cover all the syllabus. I may not also buy that idea. But we have what we call accelerated education. Why don't we borrow and scale up for now accelerated education curriculum to help our children catch up once the school reopen? So that, accelerated education means if the syllabus is synchronized in such a way that P1, P2, P3, they can study one syllabus. So if we can borrow from the accelerated education principles. Then the other two is we cannot afford to ignore teachers anymore. The opportunity I'm saying with COVID is that we have learned to realize that teachers are very important in this country. We have failed to teach our own children. That means not everybody can be a teacher. So we need to improve on the welfare of teachers. For me, if I was the head of this country, I would just say we need to give teachers now hardship allowance, COVID hardship allowance that we used to give for other sectors, for us to make sure the welfare of the teachers improved.
Okay.
We need to handle the issue of inequality among teachers. We are ignoring about private teachers. They are not private. These are teachers in Uganda. They are not private. They are teaching in private schools. To me, in future government, for sustainability, we need to pay all the teachers. Let them go and teach in private schools, but the government should pay all the teachers because that will improve the quality of teaching in every school. We will make sure it's uniform. This idea of cheating exams is because in some of the private schools, the teachers connive together with the owners of the schools to make sure the school is popular. But if we have teachers that are paid by government, we can afford. We are distributing condoms that nobody is using in this country. That money can be used to pay teachers who can also teach in private schools.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lokero. It's very exciting, and I'm going to tap you into a little later. The conversation seems to be going, but time doesn't seem to be on our side.
Sure.
I have pertinent questions. I would like to hear the submission from Owezo.
And of course, on for Owezo is Dr. Goretti Nakabugo. Dr. Goretti, are you ready? I want to welcome you to talk to us.
Yep.
Dr. Goretti?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Oh, Dr. Goretti, yes, you are welcome. And I know Dr. Goretti is one of the usual suspects when it comes to issues of welfare of children, issues of research in education. So I want to welcome you so much. And time is really pushing us very fast. But Doctor, I know that COVID-19 has negatively affected the delivery of education and training in this country. So many people are still wondering whether our children are really learning, even as we tried the online options and sending the hard copies. So my question to you, Doctor, now is that we want you to share your UWEZO experience, because UWEZO has been around this game for some time, and propose interventions for us on how the country can redeem the delivery of teaching and learning processes. You tell us a little more about yourself, Doctor, in the first minute, and then proceed to give me those answers.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. It's really a great privilege to be able to participate in this forum. So my name is Mary Goretti Nakabgo, Executive Director for UWEZO Uganda. UWEZO Uganda specializes in tracking learning outcomes across Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania in basic literacy and numeracy. And we've been doing this for the last decade. So thanks for asking me to share our experiences and what we think could actually drive improvement or recovery of the learning loss that we're experiencing as a result of the pandemic. So in the past decades, as you may be aware, and as other speakers have said, I think Uganda has struggled a bit to translate schooling into learning. I think we have sent millions of kids in schools, especially primary schools, but also millions of those are dropping out, and those who are completing the cycle are also exiting without having acquired the basics, even of literacy and numeracy. And having conducted our UWEZO learning assessment in the last 10 decades, the last one we conducted was in 2018, December national one. We are planning to carry out another learning assessment this year. It has been delayed by the pandemic, but come August, September, we are definitely going to do it. But even before the pandemic, actually, many kids were not learning well. An example here is, for example, primary 3 kids had about 90% have not yet acquired the skills or competences of even reading and understanding a very short text of primary 2 level. So one would actually expect that that situation is going to be worsened, like everyone has been saying. Is going to be worsened by the prolonged school closures. We know that actually even the foundations of our education system, the lower grades, primary 1 to P3, but also the pre-primary, the ones who have been highly affected. So the situation is likely to actually worsen. And drawing from our experiences, but also drawing from the experiences of other practitioners who are at the front line of the learning crisis, I would like to share about 5 lessons on what we could do actually to recover the learning crisis, to recover learning in a way. So number 1 is that, first of all, we need to acknowledge that there is a learning crisis. I heard you saying that, yeah, please don't talk about what is not working or what, but I think we need to actually acknowledge that there is a problem, and I appreciate the organizers of this forum for bringing this thing to the forefront, that we need to address issues of children's learning. So, and once we acknowledge that, we actually need to act now. We don't have much time to address the learning crisis. It's very easy to look at the recent PLE performance and say, no, my child's schools have been closed. Actually, children are learning. That's not true. The way pass marks are set for PLE or UCE does not mean that actually kids have acquired the competences that we want them to get. So number 1 is that as a country or as a government, as a nation, we need to take education as an emergency. It's like a health emergency, and ensure that we prioritize that issue of learning continuity and learning recovery. Number 2 is that it cannot be business as usual. And business as usual cannot be enough. So for a long time, we have emphasized sending children to school, the access, the infrastructure, the buildings, at the expense of ensuring that actually every child who goes to school is learning. I've never seen an expensive classroom translating into learning than a very trained, motivated teacher or a child who is ready to learn. And what I'm saying, and a little bit to contradict my brother who talked before, is that even when, first of all, yes, we want to protect the lives of our children, which is very good, and we really applaud government for ensuring that our children and the teachers, the teaching workforce is alive, they are protected. But we need to find a way, as other speakers, even on the one side, of safely reopening the schools as soon as possible. And once the schools have been reopened, it cannot be used business as usual. If we think we are going to cover the entire curriculum of the whole year within this constrained situation, then we are in trouble. We need to find ways of compressing the curriculum and focusing on the key competences that we want these kids to get. We have done this before. We have seen kids, I think Diana talked about this also on day one. We have seen kids in special circumstances in refugee contexts where we have had to compress the curriculum, that accelerated learning program. I think we need to think out of the box. And number two, before the school reopen, obviously, as Navendra said on day one, we need to find ways of taking learning to the children, to the communities, to their homes. That is also going to be very, very critical. But now going back to the issue of what happens after the schools have reopened, the compressing of the curriculum, and ensuring that actually we are not reducing, it's not reductionism. We are ensuring that very meaningful learning is being delivered, but within a shorter time, to ensure that there's progression, you don't stagnate the system, but also ensure that once the kids have actually progressed to other levels of education, that their catch-up programs or remedial teaching, people working in the teaching and learning profession, they know that we always talk about remedial teaching and learning, but we give it lip service. Where we are, it really has to be formalized, because a number of kids are likely to be promoted. It has even been there before the pandemic. In our 2018 assessment, about 60% of children in P5 could actually not read at primary 2 level. This situation is going to be worsened. So most likely a number of kids are going to be promoted without having acquired in entirety the skills that we want them to have. So creating an hour or two. Sorry?
Yes, Dr. Goretti, we are really enjoying all your highlights, and I know that you've been at this thing for some good time. It is only time that is not on our side, this side. So I really want you to sum up in the next 1 minute so that we can get moving. Otherwise, I already like the answer you're giving to one of the panelists who was wondering how we can compress the curriculum. And I like it when you really emphasize how that can happen. Proceed in your next 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much. I think really lastly, the number 3 thing here, and my colleague has talked about it, we need to focus on the foundational skills. If kids are not able to read, they're not able to do even simple arithmetic, we cannot expect them to acquire higher level thinking skills. So we need to start from there. The 90% who have not acquired the skills, even after going through 3 years of primary education, we need to start actually from there. Number 3 is that we need to treat the root causes of non-learning and ensure that we are not just treating the symptoms. So the issue of ensuring that all of us, be it Ministry of Education, be it as practitioners, all of us should be focused on ensuring that children are actually in school.
Okay, Dr. Goretti, I know you can go on up to... Hello,
Thank
Doctor.
you very much.
Doctor, I know if you had time, you would go up to number 100 because I know you have it all. But thank you very much for those wonderful proposals.
I think I've made it.
I really do like the proposal to vocationalize and to also focus on life skills, because then that means that even if a child doesn't complete the formal classroom system,
they have a fallback.
He has skills that can make him survive in this world.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goretti. Back to Andrew.
Now tapping into Juliet Namukasa, the Country Director, International Aid Services. Julie, are you with us? Juliet, are you with us? Okay. Juliet, can you hear me?
Hello, I am with you. I can hear you.
Okay,
but
Juliet.
I need rights to activate my video.
Yes, activate your video.
Rights. Activate my video. I need rights to activate my video. Otherwise, telling me that I have failed to activate it.
You have failed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Haven't been given.
Okay. You can talk to me, Dr. Miss Juliet Namukasa. Share with us the innovation and strategies the education sector can use to overcome the current wave.
Thank you so much. I'm Juliet Namukasa, Country Director, International Aid Services Uganda. Our operations are in Padea, Bimagago, among the formerly displaced persons, and then in Arua and Kiangwai among the refugees. The reason why I felt it's important to mention those areas is because we are working among the rural poor. And the challenges in the rural areas are very different from the urban areas. But also have the urban poor, those in the slums, so the challenges are many. Now, when we talk about innovative ways, I would like to say, like the good book says, that there is nothing new under the sun. Since we got this pandemic of COVID-19, we have had real challenges, but there have been real lessons. And my confidence is this, that if Minister of Education was able to implement them, it would make such a huge difference. For example, when we look at how education was in the past, where we had the community involved in the education of the children. Education would start from home. And it wasn't just about reading books. No, children were being nurtured into becoming responsible citizens. So if we can go back to that, that would make a lot of difference. But also when we look at parents supporting the education of their children, I work in Pade, where we have so many parents who are illiterate that even when the government gives us all those materials, the parents cannot support their children. How about if we revisit the whole education system and we engage the parents in learning? We have had cases of adult functional literacy that has not covered everyone, but maybe it could be rolled out, having seen the need and importance of parents being able to read and support their children.
Thank you so much. Madam Namukasa, because I can't see you and time is not on our side, I really want to thank you for your submission. There was a poll that was going on. Many people were responding to this. It was within our Zoom links and a couple of you have responded to it. If we can have a look at the poll and what the feedback is like from all of you who have been participating at the different layers. This is what the poll looks like. Can I have the poll? Okay, while we're waiting for the poll to come through, let me invite Dr. Mark Kawa from Education Advocacy for Education Advocacy for Difference in Education to give us the remarks as part of the organizers today. Dr. Mark, can you hear me? Mark Kawa?
Oh yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Mark Kawa. What do you make of the 3 days conversation?
Thank you so much, moderator. I would like, first of all, to begin by thanking all the organizers of this national dialogue, but also to thank NTV for, broadcasting it live, so that it doesn't just benefit a few, but it benefits the entire country.
Yep.
The 3 days dialogue on the future is very timely, ahead of the presidential address of the nation. I think tomorrow or Saturday. The day is not yet clear. But I would say that the dialogue has tried to address very pertinent issues affecting our children, affecting their future. What I get from this dialogue is that everybody is mindful about the future of the children. And also what I get is that many of us, I think, including the Ministry of Education and Sports, including government, we seem to be at crossroads, because what I read is that there is no clear plan, and this creates a lot of anxiety among the learners. They have been home for long. They don't know when schools will reopen, when they will go back to school. So some students are losing hope, and that one is very, very bad. But for us at the EWAD, we have a number of suggestions, because this dialogue should really inform government, should advise government. In our opinion, and in my personal opinion, as we think about reopening, we should do it cautiously. Because in as much as we care about, the life of our children, the education of our children, in the same vein, we should care about their safety, about their health. You are aware that what happened when we reopened after the first wave, when students went to school, there were, nasty things. Some students were falling sick in schools, and schools were, trying to give some treatment to the students, and the parents were not aware of this. And that one is very bad, it is suicidal. So in our opinion, we are saying that as we think about reopening, in my opinion, it cannot be full-fledged reopening, full reopening, because COVID-19 is real, and now it has infiltrated the communities. We don't want to lose our learners. We don't want to lose the teachers.
Thank you.
We don't want to lose all the people involved in the teaching and learning process.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawa from Because of time, Mr. Kawa, I want to thank you. Thank you so much. That is the organizing committee. And I want to thank in absentia Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, still from EWAD, who have taken the center stage to make sure that this conversation actually reaches as many people as possible. Now, for the closing remarks, the poll came, but it was very small, but I'm sure the results will be shared with the other stakeholders. Now, to have us wrap up this conversation, allow me welcome Rosemary Ranyange from UNICEF to give us the closing remarks of this dialogue. Rosemary, are you there?
I'm here, but my camera is off, so I'll just speak if that's okay.
Yes, please carry on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chamagero and the team you're with for this opportunity. My name is Rosemary Rugamba Rwanya.
Rose, I can't hear you anymore. Okay, as we wait for Rose to come back, let me just go through a little of your feedback. I really want to thank all participants in this conversation. It has been quite very... Okay, now Rose, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just was introducing myself. I'm Rosemary Rugamba Ranyange, and I'm an education specialist in UNICEF, Uganda, responsible for the Quality and Inclusive Education Program. And in closing, I would like to thank the organizers of this discussion and dialogue. It has been extremely useful. And as UNICEF, we have been working very closely with the co-conveners World Vision and Save the Children in Uganda. And just to say that the COVID-19 pandemic happened so unexpectedly and suddenly. So we were all very quick to react to see how we could handle the education concerns at all levels. So at first, it seemed to be a health pandemic, but all sectors were actually affected. And the education sector in particular has been greatly affected and was not spared either, because about 15 million learners at all levels were affected directly or indirectly by missing learning and by not socially interacting with each other. The learners, like the rest of us, remained at home, which was not always a safe haven for them. And many teenage girls have got pregnant and become child mothers. Also, different institutions and organizations have really played a role to manage and react to this situation. For example, as UNICEF, we have directly supported the Ministry of Education and Sports and other implementing partners who include INGOs, NGOs, FBOs, who were on the ground to support home-based learning and community learning centers. So with the provision of learning materials to start with, which was supported by the Global Partnership on Education, Embassy of Ireland, Embassy of Denmark, Embassy of Norway, UK Aid, and private sector institutions like Standard Chartered Bank, learners were provided with learning materials that were developed by the National Curriculum Development Center and supported and approved by the Ministry of Education and Sports for all classes from pre-primary to higher education levels. The media too, thank you for playing such an important role in printing the materials that New Vision provided, and also the broadcasts on NTV, on UBC, NBS, and among other stations, which truly also try to close the gap for those learners that could have our online access. It was really an uncharted area for all of us, with very limited time to take decisions that were needed to manage the learning process. But as UNICEF, we are pleased that despite all the challenges, the examination classes were also able to return to school in October 2020 to continue learning and also to complete their examinations. And we commend the Uganda National Examination Board on managing to deliver on this to ensure that the learners were able to complete their full cycle at different levels of learning. And as I conclude, we are pleased as UNICEF and other implementing partners we work with to have had this pragmatic response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we really recognize all the partners we've worked with. And we also want to say that we have also been involved with UNATU on appealing and encouraging teachers to be vaccinated, because we feel that this will be a first step to ensuring a safe learning environment for our children, and that the teachers, non-teaching staff at school will all be supported with vaccinations. And as I close, the situation, of course, has a lot of unknown factors. But however, the education development partners in Uganda that UNICEF is also a part of have committed to support the sector in implementing the COVID-19 response plan, and with support from the Global Partnership on Education. And as I end, I just want to appeal to the parents as well, who are our children's first teachers, to please join hands with us all, different stakeholders, in the effort at their own household level to support children safely to return to school when the conditions allow for this, to give their children a bright future. Let us work together to reimagine a future where children, including those with disabilities, those who are refugees, or those who are displaced from their homes, can learn, can play, can dream, and have the childhood that they deserve, and can be healthy too, to have the opportunity to achieve their learning outcomes, even as we face this raging pandemic, and irrespective also of our social differences, because education is indeed an equalizer. Our children, our future, and our future, our children.
Thank you so much, Rosemary from that is UNICEF. And the conversation comes to an end. I can't thank you enough, participants online and offline, in the Zoom, in the chat rooms, and all other stakeholders. To our great sponsors, World Vision Uganda, thank you so much. Save the Children, thank you so much, Mr. Edson Insuga and the team. I want to thank UNICEF, Rosemary, and the other team members, thank you so much. Oxfam, thank you so much. You have international aid services. We are very gratified. It Takes a World and a couple of others, not forgetting Ewood for organizing this. It's a conversation, even when it ends, the mantle and mandate still hangs on all of us as Ugandans, government, other stakeholders, and as parents. I'm Andrew Chamagero. Have a lovely afternoon.